Well, what's up, you guys? Today we're going to be trying something a little bit new. Pretty much every time we roasting because I have a job, Sergi has a full-time job at a cafe. Every time we roast, it's turned into a time we get to hang out. We get to pretty much talk over it's our business meeting time.
Yeah.
It's our roast time. It's our conversating time and everything in between. So we kind of wanted to be like, hey, why don't we just like record some of these and let people in on a little bit of the process and also kind of some of the things that we're processing and talking about, and also maybe talk about some coffee news. Who doesn't like coffee news? What's new in the industry? All that jazz. So I don't know. This is just kind of like a first take at it. We have no idea if we're gonna keep going with this, but yeah, that's kind of the idea behind this. So hopefully you guys tune in and enjoy this. So
Yeah.
Serge, what's up, dude?
It's good.
That's
It's
right.
good.
Yeah, we're reflecting what's good. That's the Mirror motto. Speaking of reflecting what's good, we just finished up our labels to our most recent coffee that we just cupped our first production roast yesterday. I think we cupped. Any thoughts without giving too much away?
It was pretty darn good. I'm pretty amazed and surprised by especially the Guatemalan, which I'll leave it at that. Won't reveal much. But going from La Bendición to this new one, I'm just super pumped. Plus, getting the ability and the honor of serving it at Makeworth, I'm super excited to dial that one in. So I'm pumped.
Yeah,
Pumped about
for
this
sure.
coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good surprise.
Oh, definitely, for sure. Yeah, I was pretty jazzed about the cupping, and we're pretty stoked about these coffees. And we just actually put in an order for a new coffee that's coming in. And man, after our cupping yesterday, cupping those samples, I was like, the flavor just sat in my mouth for the rest of the evening, and I'm like, I'm not mad. I don't even want to brush my teeth because it's just so great.
Yeah, I had those coffee flavored notes, burps coming through.
Oh yeah,
and they were super good.
Or like when you take a
new
drink,
note discovered.
yeah, when you take a drink of water and then that like water just like
Brings it
resurfaces those flavors up there. But yeah, so right now it's November 2nd, Election Day Eve.
Yes.
As if 2020 hasn't been crazy already. I mean, it's like, it's very similar to like going to school. I remember when going through college, you're going through a lot of homework assignments, studying, and 2020 feels like that one time when all the teachers agree on this is national, let's give them an exam day. And everybody, you get like 5 different exams on the same exact day, and you're like, holy crap, now I feel like I'm getting slammed, and you walk out of all those exams and you're like, what just happened?
Dude, it's finals week for a whole 12 months.
Yeah, that is exactly, it's literally what people say, dead a week.
Yeah.
So, give me some of your thoughts of what you think 2020 was like and kind of some of your takeaways, but also going into the next couple months.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely easy way to kind of label it as hard. It's been a super difficult year, but also it left like this idea of like, man, like things can happen out of difficulty, because I feel like hardness and struggle always produces opportunity for you to grow and persevere, you know what I mean, and progress. So even though like, I remember that one time we were sitting at my house across the dining room table, and Deja and I didn't end up going on our anniversary, and we were talking about like, dude, what's gonna happen with COVID?
Yeah.
And it was scary. Like, it was a hard time. But then to see how it just progressed, and we were able to pivot, kind of understand what we need to do to like protect one another, protect our families, protect our community, and then grow. I mean, basically, Mirror was like started during COVID for the most part. You know what I mean? So to see that evolve and to see where we're at today, you know, going into this latter part of the year with like hope, I think that's been super exciting for me.
Yeah. And something you mentioned kind of before this talk was just that like the fact that we all kind of had to take on COVID at the same time. Mm-hmm. It was difficult, but at the same time, there was some kind of good in that, in the sense of like we were all on the same page. It wasn't like, all right, you deal with this however way you want. I'm kind of better off, whatever. It was more like, hey, no, we're all in this together. There's no way we can't be all in this together, and we're trying to figure it out, go through this season together. And man, the people who have backed Mirrors throughout those months has just been extraordinary. We've grown through that. We've learned a lot through that process, and everybody who just bought a bag of coffee, who hit us up, who encouraged us, inspired us, was just like such a big part. And the fact that in return we were able to discount some of our coffees to kind of meet people where they're at, and all of that stuff, it just felt like for once it felt like the world had a common enemy to go up against, which kind of added to some of that unity that I think the world as a whole got to experience, which is kind of hard to see sometimes through it all, but I think that was actually a pretty good thing that we can take away from that.
Totally, for sure. And like, I don't know if we should even dive into like the personal concept. For me, 2020 has been like an insane year of like personal growth and development. I mean, yeah, like COVID gave us some time. Like I didn't work behind the bar apart from roasting. Our roasting times decreased because we didn't have as much coffee to roast. Yeah. But not even working in the cafe, like there was a lot of time created to grow personally. And then when everything was stirred up with the death of George Floyd, I was like, I need to process this information, especially, I don't know for how many listeners know that my wife is a person of color. So like to have those conversations at home, like honestly, to a degree, I'm kind of thankful that I was able to do that during COVID. It gave a platform and an opportunity to grow and to challenge myself and my views. And then even the concept, like we were saying, like this is eve of election year. Election year, election day, but it is election year. But it's on the eve of election day, like the concepts of what is good leadership. You know what I mean? Like how do we grow like as a business, but how do we personally grow and progress as just people, communities, cultures, families, you know what I mean? So it's been a year where I feel like I've grown a lot personally, and then grown a lot having the opportunity to roast so many coffees too as things started opening up, it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. That common theme of growing and developing as a business, but also as like you as a person yourself, I think has been also a massive theme for me, and it feels like it's been a common theme for everybody. Like the fact that we've been able to reflect on kind of our lifestyles, our behavior, our just who we are as like our characters, like our willingness. But then the good of that came out in COVID, which is like us people willing to rally together to help somebody else. That is also something that COVID highlighted. That was like, no, there's actually good in humanity. And I think as Mir, like we just want to reflect what's good. Yeah. That's one of those things is like, yeah, COVID is bad, but like there's a lot of good that we saw, like humanity coming together, and us kind of also the self-development that happened over the COVID months and still is happening is also good. Like it's hard to find times of growth without challenges being alongside of that, and it's hard. It's bad, but at the same time the good in that is like we're growing as people, we're progressing, we're developing, and there's so much good in that. And that happened a lot in the coffee industry as well, right?
For sure. I mean, everything from producing nations struggling now to export coffee because of a lack of transportation and borders being closed, but also roasting companies not being able to receive coffee because lack of finances, uncertainties. And then, from a cafe perspective, like how do you run a cafe that's safe, that is able to make people feel safe inside, protect its staff, and be able to still continue to produce and everything from a latte to a drip coffee, which means you need to buy more coffee. So like the chain itself, like there was this like kind of bonding that happened within the chain from the producer to the consumer.
And that's a big part is the consumer, is that from what I've heard, some coffee companies had record numbers in terms of how much people bought their coffee in bags, whole bean bags, the months that everything was kind of locked down. And I'm like, man, that's so incredible. Is that like you can stand behind maybe your favorite roasting company, your favorite cafe, and say, hey, like I want to use the limited amount of resources that I may have to support you because I want you to stay here. I want you to be alive still. I want to support you. And that's kind of a full circle. It's like, I think caring for one another and stepping in the right moments is like, kind of like, it's straight up just like a full circle. And one thing attaches to the other and one thing supports something else. And that's been like super cool to see. So I think there's a lot that we're able to pick up from these months. So
and there's been a lot of great stuff even happening. I feel like in Bellingham, like businesses, like I was shocked and like just like appalled by how our community came together to help Black Drop. You know what I mean? Like that was like super exciting for me and like inspiring and motivating. Be like, man, like our whole community came together and raised money to make sure this cafe stays and actually moves to a better building. That's amazing. Like, you know what I mean? Like talk about a hard year, but through this like pain, like people are coming together to help one another in their pain, which is like super inspiring. Like as hard as 2020 is, it's also probably going to be one of the most inspiring years ever. Yeah.
And I mean, there's just, I don't know, maybe I'm just an optimist, but I think there's so many things that in the moment of it all, we won't see, but looking back years later, we're going to say, man, that brought good change. I'm like, that maybe birthed new companies, that maybe, was pivotal in people's lives and how they went about to doing life. So I'm excited to see what this brings out in the future when we can just look back at it and say, this is what came up of it. So we'll see. Any other thoughts you'd want to share?
Like our good friend Michael Gavaronsky from Santo Coffee says, the best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. Yeah. That's right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in and for watching. This was a good time. Let us know what you want us to talk about, cover. We don't quite know if we're going to keep this up, but we'll see. It'd be fun. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, whatever you did. Hopefully this was some kind of, hopefully this was a cherry on top, maraschino cherry. That was a short little shameless plug to our Ethiopian whoosh whoosh. But anyways, thank you once again, and we'll see you guys later. Take it easy.